The Making of Donald Trump by David Cay Johnston. The saga of Donald Trump begins not in the gleaming towers that bear his name, but in the unassuming village of Kallstadt, Germany. In the 17th century, amidst a Europe ravaged by war, the Trump family eked out a living from the vineyards. The year 1885 saw a young Friedrich Trump, barely 16 and seeking to avoid mandatory military service, embark on a journey to America, a path trodden by countless immigrants. He found refuge in New York with his older sister Catherine, but the allure of the West soon beckoned. Friedrich's entrepreneurial drive led him to Seattle, where he established the Dairy Restaurant, an establishment that, according to some whispers, discreetly catered to more than just culinary appetites. In 1892, he became a citizen, conveniently altering his arrival date, a minor fabrication in the grand scheme of his ambitions. Ever the opportunist, Friedrich sold his restaurant and ventured north, drawn by rumors of a Rockefeller mining project. On land he didn't own, he erected a hotel, once again catering to the less savory desires of his patrons. When the mining venture fizzled, Friedrich, now an Americanized version of his former self, set his sights on the Klondike gold rush. He chose not to brave the icy streams with the prospectors, but to mine the miners themselves. His establishment, the Arctic, offered liquor and the company of sporting ladies. His timing was impeccable, and by the time the gold rush waned, Friedrich had amassed a small fortune. He returned to Germany in 1901, a wealthy man at 32. There, his mother presented him with suitable marriage prospects, but Friedrich's eye was caught by Elizabeth Christ, a woman his mother disapproved of. Defying his mother's wishes, he married Elizabeth and brought her to America. However, Elizabeth yearned for her homeland, and in 1904, they sailed back to Germany with their infant daughter. Friedrich's attempt to make amends with the German authorities over his draft dodging fell flat, his explanations dismissed. He was ordered to leave. Back in New York, Friedrich continued to prosper, though the exact nature of his work remains somewhat ambiguous. Some accounts suggest he was a barber, a seemingly odd profession for a man so fixated on wealth. However, barbershops of that era often served as fronts for illicit activities, and their clientele of men with questionable means provided ample opportunities for gathering business intelligence and engaging in clandestine transactions. The year 1918 brought tragedy as the influenza pandemic swept the globe, claiming Friedrich's life at the age of 49. His son, Fred, though just 12, soon exhibited the same entrepreneurial spirit. By 14, he had established a garage-building business with his mother, Elizabeth Trump and Son. Elizabeth's signature adorned the checks and documents, as Fred was still a minor, legally barred from entering contracts. Fred Trump's first brush with public notoriety came at age 21, when he was arrested during a Ku Klux Klan riot in Queens. Though charged with failure to disperse, he was never prosecuted. This incident, however, foreshadowed a pattern of racial bias that would later surface in his business dealings. As the Roaring Twenties gave way to the Great Depression, Fred, ever adaptable, transitioned from building houses to opening a self-service grocery store, a forerunner of the modern supermarket. The venture proved successful, and he sold it for a substantial profit after just 1 year. World War II presented new opportunities. Fred secured government contracts to build housing near Navy shipyards, honing his skills in navigating the complex world of government procurement. With the war's end and the subsequent housing boom for returning GIs, Fred was among the first to capitalize on Federal Housing Administration loan guarantees. He erected thousands of apartments in Brooklyn and Queens, often prioritizing profit over quality. Fred became known for his frugality, famously picking up stray nails at construction sites, a habit that contrasted sharply with his tailored suits and expensive Cadillacs. He was also a master of public relations, employing tactics like hiring bikini-clad women to hand out bricks during the demolition of the Steeplechase amusement park, a move that foreshadowed his son Donald's penchant for using spectacle to deflect criticism. Fred's business practices, however, were far from clean. He became a target of federal investigations into profiteering from housing programs intended for veterans. Testifying before Congress in 1954, he denied allegations of making an excess profit of nearly $4 million, arguing that the money in the bank was not profit until withdrawn, a creative accounting method that would later be mirrored by his son. Despite accusations of profiteering and unethical rent hikes, Fred faced no legal consequences. His business dealings extended to partnerships with individuals like Willie Tomasello, an associate of the Genovese and Gambino crime families, highlighting a willingness to engage with the underworld that would also characterize his son Donald's future endeavors. Fred was a stern father, expecting his sons to learn the family business from the ground up. His eldest, Fred Jr., showed little interest, preferring the freedom of flying airplanes to the drudgery of property management. Donald, on the other hand, displayed a rebellious streak, getting into trouble at school and earning a reputation as a difficult child. His father, hoping to instill discipline, sent him to the New York Military Academy. While attending college, Donald began making his own real estate deals, mirroring his father's ambition. He also began to cultivate an image of wealth and success, driving a Cadillac with personalized plates and dating high-profile women. In 2005, Donald Trump, accompanied by his wife Melania and a convicted felon named Felix Sater, traveled to Colorado for a motivational speaking engagement. Sater, who was helping Trump with development deals in Denver, would later become a significant figure in Trump's life. At the event in Loveland, Trump delivered a rambling, profanity-laced speech denouncing former wives, business associates, and even the local airport. He offered two pieces of advice to the audience: trust no one and always seek revenge. These principles, he claimed, were the keys to his success. 2 years later, Trump published Think Big, a book co-authored by Bill Zanker, founder of the Learning Annex. Chapter 6, titled Revenge, elaborated on Trump's philosophy of retribution. He recounted the story of a former employee whom he had helped, only to be met with what he perceived as disloyalty. His response was to fire her and actively sabotage her career, reveling in her subsequent misfortunes. This chapter also featured a scathing attack on actress Rosie O'Donnell, whom Trump vilified in graphic terms for her public criticisms of him. Trump's views on revenge, as expressed in Think Big and elsewhere, stand in stark contrast to the teachings of both Christian and Jewish faiths, which emphasize forgiveness and leaving vengeance to God. Despite his claims of being a devout Christian, Trump has never been able to quote a Bible verse and has publicly stated that he sees no need to seek God's forgiveness. The death of Fred Trump Sr. in 1999 brought to light a bitter family feud. His will, executed in 1991, left the bulk of his fortune to his 4 surviving children, effectively disinheriting the descendants of his deceased son, Fred Jr. This decision, made before Fred Sr.'s diagnosis of Alzheimer's, led to a lawsuit by Fred Jr.'s children, Fred III and Mary. They claimed that their grandfather had not been of sound mind and that Donald and his siblings had exerted undue influence. The lawsuit triggered a swift and vengeful response from Donald. He terminated the medical benefits of his nephew's infant son, William, who suffered from severe health problems. This act of familial retribution, carried out just days after the lawsuit was filed, highlighted Donald's willingness to use any means necessary to punish those he perceived as enemies, even his own family. In the early 1970s, Donald Trump, still living in Queens, set his sights on Manhattan's elite social circles. He rented an apartment on the Upper East Side and sought entry into Le Club, a haven for the rich and famous. It was there that he met Roy Cohn, the notorious lawyer who had served as Senator Joseph McCarthy's chief counsel during the communist witch hunts. Cohn became Trump's mentor and legal advisor, introducing him to a world of power, influence, and moral ambiguity. Trump's first major legal battle with Cohn involved a 1973 lawsuit by the Justice Department accusing the Trump Organization of racial discrimination in its rental practices. Cohn advised Trump to fight the charges, and Trump, following his mentor's lead, filed a countersuit. Despite Cohn's experience, the case did not go well for Trump. The judge dismissed the countersuit and allowed the government's investigation to proceed. Ultimately, Trump settled, agreeing to a consent decree that mandated changes to his company's rental practices. Cohn's influence extended beyond the courtroom. He connected Trump with mob-owned construction companies and union officials, ensuring smooth operations for Trump's Manhattan projects. This association with organized crime figures would later become a source of controversy and scrutiny. In 1981, Trump applied for a casino license in New Jersey, a move that would prove to be one of his most lucrative and controversial endeavors. He persuaded the state's attorney general to expedite the background check, promising to build in Atlantic City only if the process was swift. This deal, however, would later come back to haunt him as his connections to organized crime and other unsavory characters became public knowledge. Trump's casino license application was riddled with omissions and misrepresentations. He failed to disclose multiple federal investigations into his business dealings, including a grand jury inquiry into his acquisition of the Penn Central Railroad yards and an FBI investigation into his dealings with a mob-connected union official. Despite these omissions, the Division of Gaming Enforcement, DGE, gave Trump a pass, failing to thoroughly investigate his background and associations. Trump's construction projects in Manhattan, including Trump Tower, relied heavily on mob-controlled companies, particularly for the supply of ready-mix concrete. His relationship with Roy Cohn ensured that his projects were not disrupted by labor disputes, even when other developers were pleading with the FBI for relief from the mob's grip on the industry. Trump's foray into professional football with the purchase of the New Jersey Generals in 1983 provided another example of his disregard for established rules and norms. He quickly abandoned the United States Football League's USFL cautious, long-term strategy, instead opting for a high-stakes gamble to challenge the dominant National Football League, NFL. Trump persuaded the other USFL owners to file an antitrust lawsuit against the NFL, arguing that the NFL's television contracts constituted an illegal monopoly. The lawsuit, signed by Roy Cohn and handled by a lawyer with no antitrust expertise, was a disaster. The jury found that the NFL had indeed engaged in monopolistic behavior, but awarded the USFL only $1 in damages, a symbolic rebuke of Trump's legal strategy. The USFL folded soon after, its demise a direct result of Trump's reckless pursuit of quick riches through litigation. Despite the league's failure, Trump later characterized the lawsuit as a great and fun experience, demonstrating his indifference to the consequences of his actions on others. Trump's dealings with Joseph Weichselbaum, a convicted drug trafficker, remain one of the most perplexing aspects of his career. Weichselbaum, who operated a helicopter service that catered to Trump's casinos, was also involved in large-scale cocaine and marijuana trafficking. Despite Weichselbaum's criminal history, Trump continued to do business with him, even writing a letter to a federal judge seeking leniency for Weichselbaum after his conviction. The reasons for Trump's loyalty to Weichselbaum remain unclear. Some speculate that Weichselbaum provided Trump with illicit services, such as access to drugs or money laundering. Others suggest that Trump may have been financially entangled with Weichselbaum's criminal activities. Whatever the motivation, Trump's association with Weichselbaum put his casino license at risk and raised serious questions about his judgment. The demolition of the Bonwit Teller department store to make way for Trump Tower in 1980 became another source of controversy. Trump hired a non-union company employing undocumented Polish workers who were paid substandard wages and forced to work in dangerous conditions without proper safety equipment. When the workers complained about not being paid, Trump's representative allegedly threatened them with physical harm. A lawsuit by the workers revealed that Trump had engaged in a conspiracy to cheat them out of their wages and benefits. A federal judge found Trump's testimony in the case to be lacking in credibility and ruled against him. Trump eventually settled the case, but the terms of the settlement remained sealed. The Bonwit Teller demolition also highlighted Trump's willingness to deceive the public. He promised to donate valuable Art Deco sculptures from the building's facade to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but later had them destroyed, claiming they were worthless and that removing them would have been too costly and dangerous. Trump's claims about his net worth have been a constant source of speculation and controversy. He has offered wildly varying figures, sometimes differing by billions of dollars within days. In a lawsuit against journalist Tim O'Brien, who had estimated Trump's net worth to be far less than $1 billion, Trump testified that his net worth fluctuated based on his feelings, even his feelings about the state of the world. This admission, made under oath, provided a rare glimpse into Trump's subjective approach to valuing his assets. It also highlighted the difficulty in determining his true financial status, given his use of complex ownership structures and his tendency to overstate the value of his properties while understating or concealing his debts. In 1990, Trump's business empire teetered on the brink of collapse. Despite his claims of being a multi-billionaire, he was unable to pay his bills, and his creditors were circling. A report commissioned by his bankers revealed that Trump had a negative net worth, meaning he owed more than he owned. To avoid a chaotic bankruptcy that would have wiped out his holdings, Trump struck a deal with his creditors, aided by the intervention of New Jersey casino regulators. The deal, which effectively constituted a government bailout, allowed Trump to restructure his debts and continue operating his casinos. This episode demonstrated Trump's willingness to use his political connections and the threat of economic disruption to secure favorable treatment. Trump's penchant for offering wildly different valuations of his properties, depending on the audience, extended to his golf courses. He often boasted about their luxurious amenities and high value to potential investors and the public, while simultaneously claiming they were worth far less to tax authorities. For example, he valued his Trump National Golf Club Westchester at over $50 million in his presidential disclosure form, but told the local tax assessor it was worth less than $1.4 million. This discrepancy, along with his refusal to pay for damage caused by runoff from the golf course, angered local residents and officials. Similar discrepancies emerged regarding the value of his golf courses in Bedminster, New Jersey, and Palos Verdes, California. Trump's efforts to avoid paying income taxes have also drawn scrutiny. He has reportedly paid no federal income tax in multiple years, thanks to provisions in the tax code that allow real estate developers to offset their income with paper losses from depreciation. In 1984, Trump faced audits by both New York City and state tax authorities for claiming large deductions against zero income from a consulting business. He was unable to provide any documentation to support these deductions, and the auditors denied them. Trump appealed, but his accountant, Jack Mitnick, testified that he had not prepared the tax return in question, raising questions about who had filed it and how Mitnick's signature ended up on it. The appeals were unsuccessful, and Trump was ordered to pay back taxes, interest, and penalties. These cases, along with others involving his casinos and real estate holdings, highlighted Trump's aggressive use of tax avoidance strategies and his willingness to challenge tax authorities. Trump's involvement in a sales tax evasion scheme involving the purchase of luxury jewelry from Bulgari further illustrated his disregard for the law. He had empty boxes shipped to out-of-state addresses to avoid paying New York sales tax, a practice that could have resulted in felony charges and the loss of his casino license. Trump avoided prosecution by cooperating with authorities, but the episode demonstrated his willingness to engage in illegal activities to save money, even when the amounts involved were relatively small compared to his claimed wealth. Trump University, a for-profit education venture, became the subject of multiple lawsuits and investigations alleging fraud and deceptive practices. Trump claimed that the university offered a superior education to that of top business schools and that he personally handpicked the instructors. In reality, there was no university, and the instructors were often salespeople with little or no experience in real estate. The courses, which cost thousands of dollars, were primarily designed to upsell students on more expensive mentorship programs. Investigations in New York and Texas revealed that Trump University engaged in high-pressure sales tactics, made false promises, and violated state education laws. Trump's charitable giving, or lack thereof, has also been a source of controversy. Despite his claims of being an ardent philanthropist, there is little evidence that he has made substantial personal donations to charity. His own foundation has primarily been funded by others, including vendors doing business with Trump. In 2016, Trump faced criticism for failing to distribute money he had raised for veterans' charities in a timely manner. He also came under scrutiny for using his foundation to make a political donation to Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was considering joining an investigation into Trump University. The donation, which violated federal law, was later attributed to a clerical error, but it raised questions about the Trump Foundation's practices and its relationship to his political activities. Trump's use of fake identities, such as John Barron and John Miller, to plant stories in the media and manipulate public perception has been well documented. He used these alter egos to promote his business ventures, boast about his romantic conquests, and attack his enemies. In 1991, Trump, posing as John Miller, called People magazine to plant a story about his supposed affair with model Carla Bruni. The story backfired when the magazine exposed Trump as the source of the fabricated tale. Despite this, Trump continued to use fake identities throughout his career, even denying his actions on national television during his presidential campaign. Trump's fabricated affair with Carla Bruni was not the only instance of him creating imaginary relationships with women. He often boasted about his romantic prowess and claimed to be pursued by numerous celebrities and models. These claims, often made through his alter egos or in interviews, were designed to enhance his image as a desirable and powerful man. Trump's use of litigation, threats, and public attacks on journalists and critics has been a consistent strategy for managing his public image and deflecting scrutiny. He has sued journalists, authors, and media organizations for reporting unflattering information about him, even when the information was accurate. During his presidential campaign, Trump continued to employ these tactics, attacking journalists who questioned his past and threatening to sue those who reported on his business dealings and personal life. He also banned certain news organizations from his rallies, further demonstrating his hostility towards the press. Trump's acceptance of numerous awards from the American Academy of Hospitality Sciences, an organization with close ties to him and his businesses, raised questions about the legitimacy of these honors. The Academy, led by Joseph Cinque, a convicted felon with a history of dealing in stolen goods, bestowed its 6-star Diamond Award on Trump's golf courses, hotels, and other properties. Trump served as an ambassador extraordinaire for the Academy, and his children and employees were among its trustees. This close relationship, along with Cinque's criminal past, cast doubt on the objectivity and prestige of the awards. Trump's association with Felix Sater, a convicted felon with ties to organized crime, became another source of controversy. Sater, who worked for a real estate development firm involved in Trump projects, had a history of violence and financial fraud. Despite this, Trump continued to do business with him, even giving him an office in Trump Tower and business cards identifying him as a senior advisor to Donald Trump. When questioned about Sater, Trump claimed to barely know him, a statement contradicted by evidence of their close business relationship. This pattern of distancing himself from individuals who became liabilities was a recurring theme in Trump's career. The failed Trump Ocean Resort in Baja California became the subject of multiple lawsuits alleging fraud and misrepresentation. Buyers claimed that they were lured into investing in the project by Trump's name and the involvement of his children, only to discover that Trump had merely licensed his name and had no financial stake in the development. The lawsuits, which were eventually settled, revealed that Trump had authorized the use of his name and image to promote the project, even though he later denied being the developer. This episode highlighted Trump's willingness to exploit his brand for profit, even when it meant misleading investors. Trump's dealings with Akio Kashiwagi, a Japanese real estate tycoon and high-stakes gambler, demonstrated his lack of understanding of the casino business and his willingness to take reckless risks. Kashiwagi, known as the Warrior, was one of the world's biggest gamblers, and Trump actively courted his business. During a marathon baccarat session at Trump Plaza in 1990, Kashiwagi won millions of dollars, putting Trump's casino at risk. Trump, panicked by the losses, demanded constant updates and even considered stopping the game, a move that would have violated the terms of their agreement and damaged his reputation. Kashiwagi eventually lost, but he refused to pay his debt to Trump, claiming that Trump had broken their agreement. Kashiwagi was later murdered in Japan, his death rumored to be linked to his unpaid gambling debts. Bob Labooty, a racehorse owner and Trump's biggest customer at Trump Plaza, was another example of Trump's willingness to cater to the whims of wealthy gamblers, even when it meant violating casino regulations and tolerating abusive behavior. Labooty, who was known for his volatile temper and racist and sexist remarks, received lavish comps and special treatment from Trump Plaza. Trump personally intervened to ensure Labooty's continued patronage, even trying to arrange a secret commission for Labooty's brother-in-law, singer Jimmy Roselli. When Labooty eventually ran out of money, he was banned from Atlantic City casinos, not for his abusive behavior, but for allegedly associating with a member of organized crime. This episode highlighted the selective enforcement of casino regulations and the lengths to which Trump would go to protect his profits. The story of Donald Trump, as presented in The Making of Donald Trump, is a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition, the corrosive effects of power without accountability, and the systemic failures that allow individuals like Trump to thrive. As voters consider the prospect of a Trump presidency, they must weigh the evidence of his past actions and decide whether he possesses the qualities of leadership, integrity, and judgment necessary to lead the nation. His career has been marked by a consistent pattern of rule-breaking, deception, and a willingness to exploit others for his own gain. His relationships with criminals, his use of fake identities, his manipulation of the media, and his disregard for the truth all raise serious questions about his character. The book highlights the systemic failures that have allowed Trump to operate with impunity for decades. Lax enforcement of regulations, the influence of money in politics, and the media's fascination with celebrity have all contributed to Trump's rise. If you enjoyed this book breakdown, please consider liking this video and subscribing to get notified when we post our next book.